Abraham H. Maslow quotes, "To the man who only has a hammer, everything he encounters begins to look like a nail." I suppose it is tempting, if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail. It isn't normal to know what we want. It is a rare and difficult psychological achievement. One can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. Growth must be chosen again and again, fear must be overcome again and again. A musician must make music, an artist must paint, a poet must write, if he is to be ultimately at peace with himself. What a man can be, he must be. We need not take refuge in supernatural gods to explain our saints and sages and heroes and statesmen, as if to explain our disbelief that mere unaided human beings could be that good or wise. What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. I can feel guilty about the past, apprehensive about the future, but only in the present can I act. The ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. If you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life. Life is an ongoing process of choosing between safety, out of fear and need for defense, and risk, for the sake of progress and growth. Make the growth choice a dozen times a day. The sacred is in the ordinary, it is to be found in one's daily life, in one's neighbors, friends, and family, in one's own backyard. Travel may be a flight from confronting the scared. This lesson can be easily lost. To be looking elsewhere for miracles is to me a sure sign of ignorance that everything is miraculous. What one can be, one must be. In any given moment we have two options, to step forward into growth or to step back into safety. If the essential core of the person is denied or suppressed, he gets sick, sometimes in obvious ways, sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes immediately, sometimes later. Self-actualized people live more in the real world of nature than in the man-made mass of concepts, abstractions, expectations, beliefs, and stereotypes that most people confuse with the world. The most fortunate are those who have a wonderful capacity to appreciate again and again, freshly and naively, the basic goods of life, with awe, pleasure, wonder and even ecstasy. It seems that the necessary thing to do is not to fear mistakes, to plunge in, to do the best that one can, hoping to learn enough from blunders to correct them eventually. We fear our highest possibilities. We are generally afraid to become that which we can glimpse in our most perfect moments, under conditions of great courage. We enjoy and even thrill to God-like possibilities we see in ourselves in such peak moments. And yet we simultaneously shiver with weakness, awe, and fear before these very same possibilities. False optimism sooner or later means disillusionment, anger, and hopelessness. One's only rival is one's own potentialities. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. In this sense, every man can be a king, and must therefore be treated like a king. Seeing is better than being blind, even when seeing hurts. If I were dropped out of a plane into the ocean and told the nearest land was 1,000 miles away, I'd still swim. And I'd despise the one who gave up. The most stable, and therefore, the most healthy self-esteem is based on deserved respect from others rather than on external fame or celebrity and unwarranted adulation. Not allowing people to go through their pain, and protecting them from it, may turn out to be a kind of overprotection, which in turn implies a certain lack of respect for the integrity and the intrinsic nature and the future development of the individual. The great lesson is that the sacred is in the ordinary, that it is to be found in one's daily life, in one's neighbors, friends, and family, in one's backyard. In a word, growth and improvement can come through pain and conflict. Perhaps adjustment and stabilization, while good because it cuts your pain, is also bad because development towards a higher ideal ceases. Most people experience both tragedy and joy in varying proportions. Any philosophy which leaves out either cannot be considered to be comprehensive. Obviously, the most beautiful fate, the most wonderful good fortune that can happen to any human being, is to be paid for doing that which he passionately loves to do. Dispassionate objectivity is itself a passion, for the real and for the truth. If you deliberately plan to be less than you are capable of being, then I warn you that you'll be deeply unhappy for the rest of your life. You will be evading your own capacities, your own possibilities. Het is niet normaal om te weten wat we willen. Dat is een enorme en uitzonderlijke psychologische prestatie. Creativeness comes partly out of the unconscious, i.e., is a healthy regression, a temporary turning away from the real world. Knowledge and action are very closely bound together, all agree. I go much further, and am convinced that knowledge and action are frequently synonymous, even identical in the Socratic fashion. Where we know fully and completely, suitable action follows automatically and reflexly. Choices are then made without conflict and with full spontaneity. Every age but ours has had its model, its ideal. All of these have been given up by our culture: the saint, the hero, the gentleman, the knight, the mystic. About all we have left is the well-adjusted man without problems, a very pale and doubtful substitute. What you don't know has power over you, knowing it brings it under your control, and makes it subject to your choice. Ignorance makes real choice impossible. I believe that another task which needs doing before we can have a good world is the development of a humanistic and transpersonal psychology of evil, one written out of compassion and love for human nature rather than out of disgust with it or out of hopelessness.